Welcome to Women and the Businesses They Own, the podcast that celebrates women entrepreneurs, their stories, their challenges, and the heart behind their success. I'm your host, Sherry Hooper, and each episode brings you real conversations with women who've built something remarkable. Today's guest is Courtney Schutt, President and CEO of Resource Communications, a dynamic retail marketing firm that helps organizations define, express, and expand their brands. Courtney has led her team in shaping messaging and identity for some of the most recognized companies, and she's done it with authenticity, creativity, and courage. So, Courtney, welcome. I've admired how much resource communication blends strategy and storytelling. I'm excited to dive in what shaped your journey, both professionally and personally. So, if you could please just dive right in, tell us more about who you are, where you are now, and a little bit about your company.
All right. Well, thank you, Sherry, for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. It's kind of a funny thing when you have to talk about yourself, but I will say that I am from St. Joseph, Michigan originally, so Michigan native. And I always grew up being a very creative girl. I loved writing short stories. I loved writing slogans. I would do plays for my family. I would have comedy shows up on our fireplace mantle. So it was just always my thing to be creative. I ended up going to University of Missouri, where I majored in journalism. And I wasn't sure when I first got there if I wanted to do more in the copywriting space or more in the advertising space. But I found myself after the second year majoring in strategic communications. And honestly, that's kind of what just started my whole career. So I graduated from Mizzou and I ended up getting my first job at Bacardi's retail agency of record, which was an agency called Moosylvania. And so yes,
Sounds a little Halloweenish.
right. It does sound like that. We're a little Bullwinkle-ish, but yes, yeah, but it was a fantastic place to start. And I started in account management. So, doing a lot of retail marketing, both in the on-premise and in the off-premise. And from there, I just kind of, they say in order to move up, you have to move on sometimes. So I went to different agencies and that really helped expand on my experience. From Moosylvania, I ended up going to another agency where I worked with Anheuser-Busch on their retail marketing, that was a very rewarding experience as well. And because of that relationship, we actually were able to go and pitch for Campari America. And when I was still in St. Louis, my career, I was the account director for all of the brown spirits of the Campari portfolio. So that included everything from Wild Turkey Bourbon to American Honey to Russell's Reserve. So it was there. I definitely cut my teeth in the beverage and alcohol world.
Yeah, so
And so, yeah, so I spent about 12 years in St. Louis. And, I was really missing home. I kind of thought about where did I want my roots to be? Where did I want to end up? And I also thought, well, I'm 30 years old. It's time for me to maybe get out of that alcohol space and try something different. So I ended up going to manage. I was actually at Wolverine Worldwide for about 5 years, and I became a brand manager for Caterpillar Footwear. And there I continued my retail marketing journey because I ended up pivoting into a job where it was more of a key account role where I managed the retail and the relationships for Cat across the US. So, think about Amazon, think about Zappos, think about, Shoe Carnival, Academy Sports, so places all over. And I would work with them to see what our marketing would look like on shelf and also online. And so that's really where I cut my teeth. And then I would say that it was during COVID. I actually got furloughed for a little bit. And while I was furloughed, you get some time to do some thinking about what it is you want, what makes you happy, where do I want to go in my career? And ultimately, I kept coming back to this time that I was the happiest when I was in this beverage space, when I was able to help brands in a different way, and when I was able to play this role where I was not just marketing, but I was also sales. And so that ended up leading me to Imperial Beverage. And Imperial Beverage is one of the three spirit distributors in the state of Michigan. So in 2021, I went there and I led the spirits portfolio for Imperial. And that is really where things started coming together for me. It was COVID, first of all. So spirit sales were booming at the time, and every craft brand wanted to get into the state of Michigan. So in my heyday, I ended up managing over 110 brands. I worked with 110 different suppliers, and I was probably getting 20 to 30 calls a week to people that wanted to come into the state. And because of that, I was able to see a lot of brands and see a lot of things. And what it started just coming to me is that there was a lot of opportunity there. There were a lot of people that may have been really great at their craft, at being able to build a great brand. And there were other people that had no idea where to start. They didn't have the right branding. They didn't have the right label. They didn't have a go-to-market strategy. So that is honestly where I saw the opportunity. And while I took that and just thought, oh, yeah, there's an aha moment here, but I'm just going to keep going. I luckily married someone who is a bigger pusher than I am. And he's the one that kind of told me, no, you really do have something here and we need to go do something about it. So he ended up actually starting to look at, businesses like Biz Buy Sell and Calder Group. And we just started looking at what businesses were available. And that's where ultimately we found Resource Communications. And so, yeah, and once we talked to them, it seemed like a really great fit. I had multiple conversations with the owner, and he was in his 70s. He's ready to retire. It was just him and his daughter at the time. But they had a really great book of business, and I thought I could just grow that business with them. And so, about a year and a half ago, we made that choice, and I decided to buy the company.
Oh my gosh. So you've only been there a year and a half.
Yeah, it has been a year and a half. So, yeah,
Oh my gosh. Okay,
yeah.
so many questions to unpack there. First of all, what brought you to University of Missouri?
Yeah, well,
How did you pick that school?
it was one of the top journalism schools in the country at the
Okay.
time. And so, knowing that I wanted to do something with journalism, I felt like that would be a good choice. So, I applied to three schools. It was Indiana, Michigan State, and Mizzou. But when I went to Mizzou, what I loved about it too is that it was a bigger city, but it gave you kind of a small town feel, just like St. Joe is a very small town. And
Okay.
it felt like home, honestly.
Well, it's just ironic because I just went to St. Louis this weekend. It was a quick drive there, watched a little hockey, stayed the night, watched some more hockey, and then came right back because
Love it.
we were like, oh man, should we go downtown? Should we do the Anheuser-Busch, the tasting?
Yeah.
And they were just launching their lights for Christmas. And in the end, it was like, okay, we're going to be back in March. So we'll do all that in March and then some. There's some really cool things, of course, in St. Louis. So when you said that, I was like, well, darn, I was just there. I can see some of these things that
Yeah.
you're talking about a
That
little.
is one thing I miss definitely is that sports culture in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of that. So 12 years in St. Louis is a
yeah,
long
it's a
time. Are
long
you
time.
an only child?
I have a brother actually.
You do have a
So,
brother. Okay.
yep. And my
So,
brother is a couple years younger than me, but funny enough, he actually followed me to Mizzou.
oh, he did.
Yeah, he did. And I
Your
don't know
parents
if
are
my
probably
parents were
like,
thrilled with
no.
that because he was an excellent soccer player and
Okay.
he had the opportunity to be able to go play for some schools. But unfortunately, he came to visit me when I was freshman with his friends, and that kind of changed everything. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Well, so were you in school a little bit then together? Sounds like a couple
yeah,
years.
2 years.
Yeah, two
Hmm.
years together.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that made it easy for your parents,
Yeah,
come.
they only had to go to one place, which was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Did your brother come back home sooner?
He did actually. So my dad owns a manufacturing company
Okay.
and he was, looking to figure out his succession plan and his retirement and my brother actually came to take it over. So my brother is married and he was living in Texas for a little bit with his wife. But he ended up moving back and they have three kids and now he's running my dad's company.
Okay, so you never wanted to take over for your dad. He was just not in
Oh gosh, okay.
the
I mean, I was never passionate about manufacturing in that way.
Okay,
So I admire him more than anybody, and he is probably the reason that I am here in business today. But I think that, my brother is very well suited for the role.
the better
And I
fit.
do think also my dad and I are exactly alike. And sometimes, having two people that are exactly alike might also cause some friction. So I
Yeah.
think that they have a really nice balance right now.
Well, that's good to hear too. Well, so when you're talking about friction, I think I heard something about working with your husband.
Ah, yes.
Yes, so at least you had mentioned your husband. You can fill us in a little bit more too about
Yeah.
him, how long you've been married, the family that you guys have together that you have in life, I guess I would say. But ultimately too, what is it like working with your husband? Because I think when I was just doing a little research, I saw him on your website. And
Mhm.
is there this
It's
friction? Is there
no, you know
a
what?
way?
I thought that there could be. One thing I do have to say is that I grew up, so my dad owned a manufacturing company, but my mother did all the bookwork.
Okay.
She and him worked together 24/7. They were together, and
Yes.
I think that that can be very difficult for couples to be able to manage.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how it was going to go, honestly. I was a little bit nervous. But it's been actually pretty amazing. So, he excels in ways that I don't. And I think we complement each other very, very well on our strengths and on our weaknesses. But he is my rock. It's funny because my dad always pushed me to start my own business. He always pushed me. But I don't know, have you seen Father of the Bride? I
Yes.
always laugh about this where he's like, "Honey, take your coat. It's cold outside." And then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, Dad, it's fine." But then her boyfriend says, "No, actually, it is pretty cold." "Oh, it is. I'll go get my coat." And I feel like that's kind of how it was. He was the one that pushed me into this. He was the one that helped me into this. But he's my rock. And so the other thing is I never was in QuickBooks. I never registered a business before. I've never been through the legal process like that before. But he is a serial entrepreneur. He's owned a few different companies. And so, yeah, without him, I would definitely not be here. And it's been really great working with him, honestly. He asked if he could just sit back here on the couch and listen live. I was like, no, absolutely not. You can go downstairs.
No, you get to watch when the link's ready, mister.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
And
full
so we've been married
disclosure.
for 3 years. We've
Oh,
owned the business I've owned the business for a year and a half, but he is an integral part of all of that too. And yeah, he has two boys, so I am a stepmother to two boys, 9 and 11.
okay.
So
So full disclosure, it sounds like he's your rock. All is going well, but has there ever been a time where, because you're the CEO, you're kind of flipped roles a little bit. Not that he's your assistant. I mean, he has his place. You guys balance each other out. Great compliments, but still
right.
you have this title, business owner, CEO. That's never been an issue.
It's interesting because, he definitely allows me to play that role. So he will, have something really great to put together a proposal, but he'll send it to me and we'll talk through it before it gets sent out. And there are a lot of times where, I'll be like, no, we're gonna have to fix this, or no, I love what you did, but, um, but for right now, it works out. So, yeah. But there's definitely times. I always say, well, I can be the CEO of the work and you can be the CEO of the home. So he makes
Yeah.
decisions here.
Well, you know what? CEO does take a lot of hours. And
Yes,
when you own a business, it's 7 days a week. I mean, there might be times where you can shut it down, but your mind's always working. There might be a customer issue. I mean, tell
absolutely.
me a little bit about that. Are you able to shut down? Do you talk
It
about it
is.
at home? Do the boys get tired of hearing about work? I mean,
Yeah, any day now I will shut down. But no, I definitely, a lot of people say not to bring work home. I think that's the blessing of being able to work with your husband, is you don't have to. So, sometimes we do our best thinking with a glass of wine hanging out on our deck. You know what I mean? But you definitely do. You do have to shut it down. You do have to make time for family. And so, we definitely try to do that. We right now are in the process of telling the boys like there is a limited screen time. And so, we're trying to also limit our screen time. So when they can't have their phones, we try not to either. So it's really important to try to have that balance. You'll drive yourself nuts if you think about work all the time. And then also just having an outlet. A couple of things that we love to do. We love to hike. So, that's something. We have a dog, a Bernedoodle. So, I love, love, love going to new parks, new trails. So every day, at least once or twice a week, we'll try to find a new place that we've never gone to before. So, that's a really great thing. And then we also work out together. And
oh, okay.
so, yeah, and I think that's a really good outlet too. So that some of that stress. Doesn't get to
Everybody
you too
needs
much.
working out. It does more for us than we even realize.
Oh
It's
my gosh,
our
yes,
brain, our
absolutely.
overall health, our quality of health. And yeah, I sometimes when I'm out running, I get these ideas and I'm always like, okay, Lord, just help me to remember that one. Just
Yes.
like when you get home, it's like your mind just starts to work and it's just going and you're sometimes I'll have to stop and I email myself with my phone and then I'll just take back off again because it's like, okay, maybe I won't remember that. But it's amazing how these ideas just pop up when you're out there, you're outside, it's
In
fresh.
nature and you're just walking. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
walking
agree.
or I mean, something about
Or
pounding the,
it's just, you can let go a little bit too, which is nice, or, think through a lot of stuff that, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's key, absolutely key.
it is. Well, so, when you took over resource communications, it sounded like it had its own identity a little bit. I mean, it's not something that you're going to see a billboard and maybe everybody just understands what it is, but since you've
Yeah.
only been there this year and a half, what did you want that brand to basically stand for, or how have you evolved or grown in the last year and a half?
So it's funny. I mean, in all transparency, when I was looking at resource communications, it wasn't super clear to me what they did either. And the first time that we looked at the site, I thought it was a printing company. I thought they owned printing equipment and I'm like, Ryan, no, there's no way. Like, we can't, I don't know anything about this. And it came to be that no, that's not the case. Actually, they work with a network of partners that they utilize to be able to help create solutions, a lot of them that fit in retail. But I would say that, from a branding perspective or a who they are, their mission, their vision, it's funny because, and I love this, I love telling this because, the old owner, I asked him because right now everybody's so into what's your mission? What's your vision? Why did you create this company? And he's like, Courtney, to survive? Like I had no choice.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, and it's super interesting to hear that. But then to be able to, and that's a hard thing too, is that when you aren't the one that originally built it, you want to be able to keep everything that it stands for alive. But you always have to be willing to evolve. You always have to be thinking about the future and how to future proof and everything. So, to me, it's all about supporting our clients. It's about being able to find the best solutions to help bring their visions to life in retail and to help I wanted to work with the smaller to the mid-sized companies. And I wanted to help them be able to, stand amongst some of the best brands in retail. I got to work with a lot of the big brands like Bacardi and Anheuser-Busch, but I want to help the smaller brands be able to compete with that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
I hope that's working. I mean, all I keep thinking about is this, and don't laugh at me, but Yingling just came to Michigan. Like,
Yes, yes, they did.
is
I
that
know.
you? Were you
That was
behind
not
all
me, but I did
that?
get a call about that because when I was at Imperial Beverage, the brand managers for beer were trying to get Yingling so bad. And so actually one of them called me a few months ago and they're like, Courtney, we got Yingling. Not we, but it's coming to Michigan.
Right,
And
right.
so yeah, so it's super that's always really fun.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I never saw any like I'm just now seeing the billboards a little bit more so, I guess,
Yeah.
about it. But I was just at one of the restaurants and I was like, what do you have on draft? And they had Yingling and Yingling Light. And I was like, wait a second, is that new? Like
Yeah.
that doesn't I know they're not here. How did that happen? So anyway, it seems to be kind of a big deal, but that's your world of beverage a little bit, or so to
Yeah.
speak. And so you must have samples galore, don't they? When you work
Oh
with
my gosh.
companies,
Well, yes, when I was at Imperial,
yeah.
everybody had to send me
Yeah.
samples to be able to get in. So literally, we have 4 bays in our garage of all liquor.
Oh
And
my
so,
gosh.
yeah, it was bad. So I'm like, oh gosh, when the boys get older, this is going to
Yeah.
we're going to have to create a bunker. But no, I mean,
Start
I've
the
gotten rid of a
education now.
lot of that stuff since my time there. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but
that's funny.
it was
Well, so
always fun.
while you were there, you've had all these chances to work with these brands in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually, for our listeners, both the podcast is both on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, so people wouldn't be able to see you necessarily there. But I have to say, you don't look like you have 12 years in St. Louis, 5 more years here in Michigan, worked for Imperial. I'm trying to add all this up, and now here you're a year and a half into your own business. Like,
And
okay, you started really, really young. You
oh, thank you.
graduated
And
quick
thank you
right
to Zoom touch-up appearances.
well, we all used to.
I love the filters, but thank you.
Yes, but yeah, it sounds like, I mean, and it's pretty interesting to hear, even I keep focusing a little bit more on your past because I want the listeners to understand, I mean, the beverage world is I wouldn't have thought that was a female world necessarily. I would have thought that, or at least in my mind, it always feels like men in alcohol, men in beer, it just,
It was, I mean, that's the thing is I think that that helped me develop a lot of strength too, is that I have traditionally been in male dominated industries. The spirits world, the footwear
yeah.
world, especially because I was managing work boots too. So, I mean,
Oh,
that's a
that's right,
very male
category. Right,
dominated
well, right.
field. But yeah, I definitely have been in those positions. So
Yeah, it sounds like it, but it sounds like you've been able to push forward. You've kind of worked up the ladder a little bit, changing agencies. You were always able to gain something along the way, bring it to that next place. So how has all of those experiences now, because this is the first time you're CEO owner, how
yeah,
is there anything that you can say that really prepared you for this current role?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think knowing that you are going to fail thousands of times,
Mhm.
but not to let that stop you. There are so many times that, for me, it's like, I don't know, you want to be perfect. You don't want to make mistakes, but honestly, you learn way, way more. And this goes in life and in work, more from the bad than you ever do from the good. And so, really, success to me is not about the people that do things great the first time. It is about getting knocked down time and time again, but continuing to get up because those are the people that are ultimately going to see success.
Well, and it kind of goes to, I say this quite a bit, but sometimes we each have I don't know, our own little, what we might start our day with. How do we just get
Like a
up and
positive
go? Yeah,
affirmation.
like how do we prepare ourselves? Everybody prepares themselves a little bit differently because you know what you're up against. Not everybody's up against the same things, but when you're going in there and you're looking for people to take you seriously, or you have a presentation you want to knock out, or you're going after the next new, company that you're going to serve, or what have you. Yeah. So what do you have like this every day? Do you do something to help you just get through that day? Do you do some self affirmations? What?
I honestly think that in order to be in a leadership role, you have got to get comfortable with being out of your comfort zone. So you have to push yourself to do things that you might not normally do. You have to, there's a lot of times where going to get new business. I mean, that was the big thing for me. When I bought RCI, we had a lot of the business was in one client. So for me, the biggest thing that I had to do is I needed to diversify. I needed to, let the people that are already at RCI be able to manage the current business while I go out and find new business. And with that, you have to do a lot of, just getting over that fear and being able to just go after things. And the funniest thing is that there's times where I would talk to my husband, I'd be like, I don't know if I could reach out to them. They were a pretty big deal, and I don't think they're going to even listen to me. And you have to do it because you just don't know. You don't know where it's going to lead you. And I have been so surprised by the people that I have been able that have, wanted to help me, or people that I have been able to bring on as new clients. So you just never know. And always be networking. That's another thing. Just talk to whoever you can because honestly, you never know where they're going to end up. You never know what they're doing. And, ultimately, they can help you in the long run. So, get into groups and, find your mentors. All of that stuff I think is so, so important because, when things look grim or when you're feeling down, a lot of those people can pick you up. So,
That's true. That's true. I remember reading a book. I can't even remember the title right now, but it was kind of talking about this a little bit and thinking when you're feeling this way, if you look at the worst case scenario. I mean, if
yes.
you look at it and you're just like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
If you already think it through and know, well, that's the worst thing that can happen, well, then you can kind of build yourself up from there. It's like, okay, if that happened, what would I do? Or if something else happened, what would I do? And all of a sudden the problem doesn't or going after that next client doesn't feel that bad. It's like, well, the worst thing that can happen is they say no. Well, well, that's no big
Exactly.
deal. I'll just go to the next company, or
Yeah.
I'll push forward, or I'll continuously smooge them, so to speak, right? I mean,
And the other thing too is that, when you're in a role like this, when somebody says no, that's when your job begins.
right.
No one's gonna say yes all the time. I mean, I hope they do, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. So, you have to keep following up. And that's one thing too, is, there's a lot of times where I will, send a one-sheeter about our business, or I'll proactively do some research or put some mock-ups together for a client that I want to go after. And I don't hear anything. And I still don't hear anything. And then I follow up again, I don't hear anything. But you know what? The fourth time, the fifth time, either they get tired of me or they're like, oh gosh, okay, we're just so beat down. We'll listen. And that can be your opportunity. So just don't give up.
I completely agree. The other one too that you had mentioned was the networking, and I
Yeah,
would say it's who you know that makes a
it
difference.
is 100%.
I mean, it doesn't mean you're always gonna, life is easy. It's just sometimes you might get an introduction or somebody knows somebody that, it's just like all of a sudden you can build a relationship by
Yes,
meeting them through somebody else. I mean, you just never know. But it just seems like when you're networking, you don't know if you're gonna make a connection and help somebody else. And then eventually they help you. And it's never
right.
asked for. It just kind of seems to be the way things work. And so I think the networking is incredible. Can you tell me more about that? Where do you network? Is it more of women's group? Is it business ownership groups? What do you do?
I would say so. I mean, one thing that I did this year is I went and got WBENC certified. So that has been really amazing too, because there's a lot of opportunities for women owners. So, recently I attended a presentation where, they were giving a grant of $25,000 to the best innovative idea. And so you got to listen to everybody's pitches, and they only had 3 minutes to do it. And
Oh,
I think that you can get a lot out of that. And then obviously you can be able to connect with these people afterwards as well. One of my clients actually told me about this group called Alignable, which I didn't know much about at the time, but is a bunch of local businesses that join these groups and they talk about things like marketing or they ask for different services. But it's just a big connection point, kind of like LinkedIn. But I would say maybe a little bit more local. And
okay.
so that has been kind of interesting too, just to kind of play around in that right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's putting yourself out there. Like I said, not only do I own RCI, but I was also given the opportunity 2 weeks after I bought RCI to become the executive director for the Michigan Craft Distillers Association. And so I'm also doing that. So there's a lot of networking involved in that as well. And so, even like this past weekend, I was at the International Food and Wine Fest and, just being able to network with everybody, meet people, look at new brands, all of that stuff. So I think it helps personally and definitely professionally.
So when you have your own business and then you said you were on the board, did I hear that
But
right?
yeah, I'm the executive director.
Executive, okay, executive director. So how many
Mhm.
hours does that take? Obviously, that's probably not a paid position. That's more of just
It,
gain it
yeah,
go
I mean, they do pay a little bit,
a little
but
bit. Okay,
but
barely.
what I told them at first is that I think I would be able to commit 20 hours a month. So that's really what I do. So my big role there is I help run the meetings, I help run the organization, I help try to recruit new members. And then, whether there's meetings that need to be facilitated or things that I need to go to. We just recently partnered with a group to do a Michigan Distilled Spirits Festival. So that was in Monroe, Michigan. And so, yeah, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. So,
Yeah, I can definitely tell that
mhm.
those just being able to make those connections, even if it's part of the old world or the new world or your two worlds are colliding, whatever that
Yeah,
might look like. I just think that you can never have too many connections. And then you
no.
mentioned a mentor. Do you have personally a mentor and how does a mentor, you said they can be there to lift you up, but do you meet with one regularly or how does that work for you?
I don't meet with one regularly. I mean, I would say that I have a few different mentors that I talk to. I would say, obviously, my parents have been hugely my mentors throughout my life, and I lean on them and they support me with everything. So that's fantastic. But I also have some female mentors that I really look up to. One in particular, I'll give her a shout out. Her name is Rebecca Stein. And she is one of the brands that I brought on when I was at Imperial Beverage. And her brand is called Blind Tiger. So, really fun story about her. She's from Erie, Pennsylvania. She actually owned a speakeasy bar, but when COVID happened, it shut down. And in Pennsylvania, it's a control state, and they're very strict on liquor laws. So you weren't able to actually, pick up drinks that you can at other bars and stuff around different states. So she decided to start a brand called Blind Tiger that was pre-prohibition style cocktails without the alcohol, so that you would bring the NA home and then you can add your own liquor to it afterwards. And so she started the brand. I brought her on, but I mean, I follow her on LinkedIn. I talk to her. I just refreshed our mission, our vision, a lot of our brand communication. So she was somebody that I, sent that over to, and I wanted to just get her opinion and see if it was iron tight. And she's always been there to help me. And she also tries to support resource communications, which has been amazing too.
That's kind of a cool concept. I've never heard of anybody doing that where you buy the non-alcoholic, bring it home, and then put your own liquor in it.
Yeah, or it's just an NA cocktail, or you know
Or
what
it's
I
just a
mean.
night. Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
that's what I thought you were going to
So
say at first. And then you're like, all right, just add your own alcohol. I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
you could do either one. But yeah. But
well, so when do you or are you currently a mentor to somebody else?
I mean, I hope so. I
I was gonna say, do you know? I mean, does Rebecca know that she's your mentor? Sometimes we
I
think,
think she knows that I look
okay,
up to her for sure.
okay,
But yeah, I don't know that she would. I mean, I think that she will be happy to hear that.
really
Um,
good.
But for me, I mean, I hope so. Like I had mentioned before, when I bought RCI, it was at the time just the dad and the daughter, and we've retained the daughter on staff, and
Oh,
which has been great. And so I hope that I can become a good mentor to her. She's not that much younger than I am, but she was really excited because she hasn't been in a traditional marketing role before, and
okay.
she's really done more sales, I would say. And so just trying to show her a little bit more about marketing and what that means and help her with, design and understanding a lot of that and the brand story. And, yeah, so I try to mentor her, and
Oh, that's really
I
great
think,
that she stayed on and she's with you
yeah,
through that.
yeah.
How many other employees do you have?
So it's just the three of us right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, the owner actually he's staying on as a consultant basis. So he has a 3-year contract.
Oh, okay. So that's
Mhm.
nice to have that there too then. If you needed him to be there
Right.
or whatever hours are necessary for him. I can see that. That's always a good transition when you buy a business.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, so I wanted to ask you, when you look back someday, what do you hope people will say resource communication stood for, or what do you hope that they might even remember about you specifically?
I would say that we were good partners and that I was a good partner. At the end of the day, where I get my passion is I want to help businesses be successful. I want to be able to create solutions that are going to help them win at retail. I think that is an incredibly saturated market and it can be very difficult. So for me, knowing that I was helpful in that process and that I helped alleviate some of these headaches that I know a lot of people go through, I think that that would make me very happy.
So do you have kind of a niche in specific types of businesses, or do you work with maybe all types of businesses?
I would say right now, we do a lot of, I would say CPG, food and bev, building materials and construction and manufacturing. Those would probably be some of our biggest industries
Okay.
that we service.
Okay, awesome. Well, so there was you might have touched on this, but I think that if we just go through this a little bit and maybe think of something else because you mentioned about doubting yourself, a moment maybe where you doubted yourself, or maybe a campaign, a client, some sort of fork in the road, you had to make this big decision. What pulled you through? Is there something specific? You've mentioned mentors, or maybe even currently you've got your rock, not the rock, but your rock. Your rock is called Ryan.
Yes.
But is there something else that comes to mind? Was there, because even just buying the business is kind of challenging, but you've transitioned
Yeah.
quite a bit. Was there anything, or why you left Wolverine specifically? Were there different challenges that you just pulled right through?
I mean, yes, there's been a ton of challenges. Trying to think of one in particular that I would say, I mean, I think that not taking things too personally, maybe, and trying to keep your emotions out of it. I think that could definitely be a thing because, when you're passionate about your work, sometimes you feel like your work is a reflection of yourself. And so, there's a lot of times where you do get emotional about things or you do take things personally, and you have to learn how to separate the two. Whether it is talking to a mentor, talking to your rock, talking to your family, you've got to vent and let things out sometimes because it can be frustrating. But my biggest thing is I always wanted people to like me. I always thought that that was success. And I think as you get older, you realize that that's never going to be the case. And that, there are going to be people that don't agree with you and that don't like you. But I think you have to be authentic to who you are at the end of the day because, you'll ultimately find what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be, but you have to be yourself to be able to get there. And sometimes it is a journey. It was a journey for me. But I don't regret any of it because if I would have made one decision differently, I wouldn't be where I was today. And so, yeah, you just gotta fight the good fight and stay true to you.
I love that. That's so insightful. Actually, it's really insightful to even the way that you just kind of brought that from start to finish. But it made me think, where you are now and what you've done and you mentioned your journey, but your journey's what? Not even over, a halfway over. I
Yeah,
mean, where do you
kind of just beginning, I
or
guess.
just
I don't,
beginning of this
yeah.
company, but you have so much history, you have so much experience already in the different companies and working for some really big companies. I mean, and it doesn't sound like you started at the ground up and made your way. It sounded like you just kind of like came right in certain aspects of your role, worked your way up a little bit and then transitioned. But where does that journey now look for you going forward?
Oh gosh. I mean, honestly, I truly think about that a lot, actually. What do I want? What do I want this to be? Do I want to be a big retail marketing agency that I have 30, 40 people on staff, or do I want to stay small? And I talk with my husband about that a lot as well. And to me, it's more about being able to enjoy life and being able to enjoy my family. Um, I don't need to be huge. I just want to be able to build something great that I'm proud of and be able to live the life that I want to live. Be able to travel and be able to experience things. I mean, I think that if I could do that, I'd be happy.
Okay. Well, I think I've seen some pictures of you. I would have said travel was important because
Yeah.
of the pictures that maybe you've posted. What are some of the places that since knowing Ryan that you guys have traveled to?
Oh, yes, he definitely gets me out of my comfort zone. But I mean, we were fortunate enough to be able to go to Italy and Greece on our honeymoon, so that was incredible. He actually, before we got engaged, he got me to get scuba certified, which I don't even know. I mean, I had to have like 3 Xanax just to get down there.
Oh
But
my gosh. Well, that's a talent-ish, I guess. I
so
don't know what else
yeah,
to call it. That's incredible.
yeah.
I don't think I could get I couldn't do that one. That one just really rocks
Yeah,
my
no,
world.
I don't think I'll ever do it again. But no, it was it definitely again like the whole getting out of your comfort zone, it was pretty great because it challenged me in a way that I never thought I could do it, and that just kind of shows that you don't know what you're capable of.
So once certified, where'd you go? Or would you
Oh
like
my gosh. So we ended up, I got certified in St. Martin. So that was one of our first vacations that we took together. And then I also went again in Puerto Rico, which is actually where he proposed. So,
oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I was like, I'll marry you, but I'm never doing that again. Um,
This way, with these terms.
Yes, with these terms. But yeah, so and then yeah, I mean we've gone to we were in Colorado actually the same time last year where he made me ski an actual slope because a lot of times here I really haven't been outside of Michigan. So That was interesting as well. But yeah, so I mean, but we want to travel all over. It was one of the gifts he gave me for our first year anniversary was this huge global map that is, Ryan and Courtney's adventures. And so we have pins, all the places we want to
Aw.
go. And but yeah, so I think
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Well, if
great.
you're enjoying this conversation, please follow Women and the Businesses They Own wherever you listen to podcasts. So I mentioned Spotify and I mentioned the Apple Podcast, but you'll also find us on YouTube, and I post the links through Facebook and LinkedIn. So share the episode with someone who would be inspired by it. I would love to have that happen so that we can share Courtney's story even beyond the normal listeners that we may have on a regular basis. Let's just get this right on out there because it's been so inspiring, Courtney. But now we're going to do the lightning round, which I
Oh,
always love the best.
okay.
I'm going to give you time to think, but it's supposed to be off the cuff questions, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind? So they always say, like when you sit in these, I don't know if you were sitting in, and they always like hold up two words. What's the first word you kind of think of, right? What
Okay.
think of it as the quick if you can, but so this is going to go really easy with what we've just said. Your favorite destination you've traveled to or where you want to go next?
Italy.
Ah, perfect. Okay, I got to stop really quick because Italy, did you do the five cities or what do they call the five cities?
So we did Venice and
Venice. Okay.
Amalfi Coast and Sorrento.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, but I would love, it was crazy. I mean, I loved Venice. It was amazing. But I mean, I'd like to go maybe further north next time too.
There's not a
So
bad place in Italy, is there?
no, there really isn't. So
There's not.
yeah, I would go back there 100 times. I loved it.
So what's a go-to marketing buzzword you secretly wish would disappear?
I would say AI, but I mean, it is very helpful.
It is helpful.
Maybe innovation.
Innovation. Yeah. Out. Okay. According to this podcast, we are now no longer using the word
Yeah.
innovation. The most underrated quality in a great leader.
Knowing when to talk.
Ooh, I guess, and then the reverse, when to listen.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Coffee, tea, or something stronger when you need to focus. What would you select?
Coffee.
Coffee's great. A brand you admire right now.
There's a lot of them.
No Lululemon.
No Lululemon. I would say let's go with Blind Tiger since I
Oh,
just
yeah.
talked about her. Yeah.
Okay. Blind Tiger, I like that. Your guilty pleasure show or a podcast when you unplug.
Oh goodness, there's a lot of those too. Favorite podcast would probably be How I Built This by Guy Raz,
Oh,
NPR.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. One word your team would use to describe you. So, there's two others. So how would they describe you?
Dad humor.
What? Really? You have dad humor? What does
Oh
dad,
yeah. I
what
mean, our
does dad
tagline is ibuprofen for your marketing headache, so I definitely have a little bit of that.
Okay. All right. What always brings you back to center after a long day? How do you
Hmm.
refresh?
Probably my husband.
Oh, well, he would like that. Ryan, you
Yeah.
need to listen. Okay, now this one I'm setting you up. I
Oh gosh, here we
know.
go.
Fill in the blank. She came, she spoke, it's my tagline.
She came, she spoke.
She
She
inspired.
she what? Inspired?
Inspired. Yes,
Okay.
that's my tagline. See? All right. So, Courtney, thank you so much for sharing your story and your heart today. Your insights into creativity, leadership. I would absolutely into leadership. I love what you said. And the balances that you always have between the professional and the family. I love moderation, and it just seems like you just bring those in naturally. And also a reminder that women in business both bring strategy and soul to everything they do. So to our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of Women and the Businesses They Own. She came, she spoke, and she inspired. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.